Hola, buenos días. Bienvenidos a esta conversación con Bassem Yousri. Yo soy María José Gómez Castillo, la directora de la Maestría en Guion de Centro, y me da mucho gusto dar la bienvenida y presentar a Bassem. La conversación va a ser en inglés, pero voy a hacer una traducción consecutiva sintética. No va a ser palabra por palabra, sino voy a tratar de resumir para darle agilidad a la conversación. Entonces, Bassem Yousri es cineasta, artista y docente. Nació en Argelia y reside en El Cairo, en Egipto. Su obra abarca diversos formatos, como la instalación en galería y en espacio público y el filme documental y experimental. Uno de los aspectos que explora en su quehacer es la relación entre los pequeños detalles cotidianos y un contexto sociopolítico más amplio, así como el humor como herramienta de comunicación con públicos diversos. La obra de Bassem Yousri ha tenido una amplia difusión tanto en Egipto como en otros países. Algunas de las sedes en las que se ha exhibido su trabajo son Beaux-Arts en Bruselas, el Museo de la Imagen Móvil, MoMI, en Nueva York, el Centro Pompidou en París, la Fundación Sarjat de Arte, el Institut du Monde Arabe en París, el Museo Estatal de Arte Egipcio en Múnich y el Instituto de Arte Moderno de Valencia en España. Entonces, con mucho placer, le damos la bienvenida a Bassem y voy a cambiar al inglés. Hi, Bassem. How are you?
Hi, Maria. I'm
It's
good.
very nice to see you. We're very pleased to have this conversation with you about the wardrobe man.
Likewise, Maria. I'm very happy for the first time actually present my work and my thoughts to an audience in Mexico City. I wish I could see the members of the audience, but we have this online culture, so we'll have to do with that.
We have no choice now, right?
But thank you so much for inviting me to have this conversation.
It is our pleasure, Bassem.
Yeah.
So I would like to begin by talking about the origin of the movie, since it's got a very peculiar format. It's a medium-length movie. It is a docu-fiction. It is made with archival footage and images, but also fiction scenes. And it's got two settings that are mirror-like, I think. So if you could tell us the story behind this and how it had an influence in the format, that would be interesting. Let me translate.
Sure.
Le acabo de preguntar a Bassem por el formato de la película, que es un formato bastante peculiar, que mezcla el material de archivo con escenas de ficción, y que además es un mediometraje. Go ahead, please.
So I did not have a plan actually when I went to Denmark to shoot the documentary footage for my film. I was responding to an invitation by two amazing artists who live in the countryside in Denmark. They decided to move from Copenhagen to the countryside, and then after a few years they realized that there's absolutely no contemporary art events taking place in the West Jutland area in Denmark, in the countryside. So they decided to found a small art organization and to invite international artists and organize various events. And then one year they were organizing this video art festival. And one of the activities that one of the programs they were organizing was based on inviting 5 international artists to Denmark and assigning them, like kind of playing a game with them. So they give each artist a museum object, and they for 3 days, you have 3 days to gather information, take footage, and then you can create a video piece based on the museum object. So my luck brought me in touch with an archive rather than a museum object. And I felt really lost. I was being helped by one of the elderly locals who knows a lot about the history of the area, and by the museum, one of the people who work in the museum archivist, in an absurd research trip that left me after 3 days with nothing. I thought that I had nothing at the end. So I'll let you translate that and then I will continue, okay?
Thank you, Bassem. Dice Bassem que no tenía un plan y que la película surgió de una invitación de una fundación en Dinamarca que fundaron dos artistas que se mudaron de Copenhague al campo, al área, otra área de Jutlandia, y bueno, hicieron esta fundación y organizaron un festival con 5 artistas internacionales y él fue uno de ellos. Y lo que hicieron fue un experimento lúdico donde a cada artista se le asignó una pieza de arte de un museo en particular. Y a Bassem le tocó la fortuna de trabajar con un archivo. Fue partir, digamos, en lo que consistía la residencia era en ir a Dinamarca a, digamos, recopilar material para hacer un video de arte y lo que le pasó a Bassem es que después de 3 días estaba un poco abrumado porque no sabía qué iba a hacer con ese material, incluso dudaba si tenía algo. So you were a little bit overwhelmed, you didn't know where it was going, and what happened next?
So in my practice, I always try to make my work, even if the work is seemingly political or about important topics, it has to come from a personal place. So I always try to understand my personal position to the subjects that I'm talking about. And this is part of a very long trip journey of figuring out why am I making art at the first place. So over the years, I realized that I'm interested in talking about my daily life, what I see around me, or what happens to me, but then related to a larger context. It could be geographical, it could be historical, it could be political. And I found myself dealing with a topic that is completely foreign to me, geography that is completely new to me and foreign to me, a language that I do not understand. And I was thinking to myself, okay, why am I an Egyptian guy coming to talk about a wardrobe man and then make judgments on this guy? Who am I to do this? I assumed that he was a crazy man. And everybody was telling me he was not crazy. He was just a peculiar person who made a certain decision regarding how to live his life, regardless of the causes. So I kept thinking about, okay, what's my position towards that? I'll let you translate that and then I'll continue just the last part.
Okay. Sí, lo que dice Bassem es que, digamos, esta situación donde se vio obligado a hacer una obra de arte a partir de un archivo de un pueblito de Dinamarca, lo trajo a las preguntas que siempre se hace cuando crea algo, ¿no? Que es, digo, ¿qué hago aquí? ¿Qué hago en este lugar tan distinto? ¿Cuál es la relación entre el individuo y el contexto? ¿Y cuál es la relación entre lo individual y lo geográfico y lo político? Entonces, digamos, esta situación era bastante peculiar porque, digamos, la pieza a partir de la cual Bassem tenía que hacer su video era acerca de un hombre al cual se le conoce en el pueblo como el hombre del ropero o el hombre del closet, y que él al principio pensaba, este tipo está loco. Y que, bueno, todo el mundo le aseguraba que el tipo no estaba loco, pero era, digamos, un punto de partida bastante extraño. Y de ahí fue surgiendo la película. So, are you going to go on, or can I make another question related to this one? Do you want to expand on what you were saying?
I'm sure whatever I will say will come up in other questions, so please go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, because you mentioned the geographical and the political, and it is clear to me there's a very interesting relation, like a very interesting political stance in the fact that you are this Egyptian guy working as an anthropologist, questioning people, looking in archives in Europe, which is usually like the opposite direction in which knowledge and anthropology has worked historically. And that is one of the most interesting points to me about your movie. the theme of this talk is even something like the inverted gaze, because it is your gaze as an African man going to Europe. And I think a very respectful gaze it is. So could you talk a little bit about this? I'm going to translate the question first.
Yeah,
le estoy preguntando a Bassem acerca de las cuestiones políticas que están relacionadas con su película y que tienen que ver con el asunto de hacer una antropología inversa. Todos sabemos que la antropología es una disciplina eurocéntrica y que surgió además como una herramienta del colonialismo. Entonces es muy interesante que en este caso Bassem, un artista nacido en África, haya tenido la oportunidad de ser el antropólogo, el etnógrafo, hacer una falsa etnografía de un hombre europeo. Y le decía yo que a mí me parece que su postura es una postura muy respetuosa. Y eso es parte de lo que me parece muy interesante de su postura política en esta obra. Please go ahead, Bassem.
Sure. I mean, I'm glad that you found respect in how I tackled my my subject. I like to call a person a subject, but I'm kind of using this as because it's in anthropology sometimes
it's a terminology.
As subjects. I mean, this is not why I wanted to go there, but this became apparent to me. This relationship became apparent to me as I'm working on the project. And once I finished it, this reverse, as you said, this reverse gaze, it's kind of a reverse anthropology because anthropology goes only one way, from the west towards the south or the east. And this made it very interesting to me that I always try to be respectful of the person that I'm investigating. And this is why, so going back to the first question again, this is why I decided to put myself in the film. The film to me became about how do I talk about history? How do I tell history? History is mostly told from one point of view, and the historian or the anthropologist kind of excludes their personal inclinations and dispositions from the narrative. And I tried to challenge that by including myself, by actually unveiling very sometimes shameful things about my personal past. And I'm saying facts about myself, although I'm saying them in absurd ways, like sharing some drawings that I did when I was very young, talking about the fact that I lost my virginity when I was 25. These things are never talk about them, and these drawings were actually hidden in a suitcase somewhere that I never showed them to anybody. So I thought, okay, in order for me to be kind of objective and respectful of the person I'm talking about, maybe I should reveal certain things about myself in the process, but also have a criticize my personal judgments that I made regarding why he made that choice, for example. So I'm kind of making fun of myself. And then I invited Shadi, my friend, to, and we have this relationship where we always get into arguments and then we kind of butt head. So we kind of replicated that, and he wrote the dialogue with me.
Yes, but don't go there because I want to ask you about it later and I have to translate, okay? Okay. So, Bassem dice que parte de esta postura, como del antropólogo al revés, del antropólogo que va en la dirección opuesta a la que suele ir el conocimiento, de ahí surgió su decisión de incluirse como un personaje en la película. Y por eso decidió también mostrar partes de sí mismo que quizá podrían calificarse de vergonzosas. Por ejemplo, muestra en algún punto unos dibujos que hizo a los 17 años y que no le había mostrado a nadie. O dice eso, cosas que no le había revelado a nadie más. Y que para él esa es una forma de incluir en la, digamos, antropología suele excluir al observador. El observador está privilegiado porque no está dentro de cuadro. Mientras que lo que hizo Bassem en esta película fue justamente incluirse como observador y, digamos, equilibrar la balanza al revelar información sobre sí mismo, ¿no? Y además no una información halagadora, sino en un tono intimista. So, yes, and there's a lot of strings coming together in what we're saying, but maybe could we show the trailers so that those who haven't seen the movie can get a sense of what it is? Do you agree? Okay. ¿Podemos ver el tráiler?
أنا حلمت امبارح حلم غريب قوي.
He walked down here with his closet and put it here somewhere. What is it that among many other possibilities and after a strange life settled down here in a closet?
طب هو الراجل ده فضل عايش جوه الدولاب طول حياته؟
They took it from there and put it there. And he says it's still there. I say no, it's not there.
أنا مش فاهم قوي بس.
So it is somewhere here.
طب أنت ما كنتش حاسس إن الناس دي بتضحك عليك مثلا؟
But we can meet Vita.
مين فيتا؟ امسك يا شادي.
But maybe they were actually worried that he might be crazy.
أنا بشوف بصة لطيفة جدا ومطلع مطر جديد.
Have you seen any drawings like this at this place?
أبويا لما شاف الرسمة دي اتخض وكان بيقول إن أنا لازم أروح أتعالج نفسيا. كنت حاسس إن اللغز بيكبر كل ما بلاقي إجابة، مش بيتحل.
Here, in this Western Jutland, it is common that you don't talk so much. You have to understand the sign.
أنا حلمت امبارح حلم غريب. أنت عايز مني إيه بس؟
But why is his story important to you?
It's not important to me.
No?
It's to you.
So, in order to continue the conversation, I would like to touch something that is very in the trailer. That is this, I find it delicious sense of humor that has to do with the absurdity of the whole enterprise. It is like it is an ethnography of the absurd, I would call it. Not even Soren knows why is the wardrobe man important to the town, right? To the small town in Denmark. I'm going to translate. Para continuar la conversación, me gustaría hablar del humor en la película, que para mí es exquisito y que tiene que ver con una búsqueda absurda, una etnografía absurda, porque además nadie sabe nada de o sabe muy poco de este hombre que vivía en un ropero y que no es que fuera una figura notable, aunque sí única, muy peculiar de este pueblo en Dinamarca. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very important point because who is important and who is not important, who's worth focusing on and who's not worth of, like, whose story is worth of being told and not. This is a very important thing because all stories are interesting and all people are interesting in a way. And at the end of the trailer, when when I'm asking Søren, so why is his story important to you? And then he reverses the question, like, it's not important to me, it's important to you. And I just, like, he kind of put me in front of myself, like he's trying to help me. And he probably thought at that point that I came and I came to Denmark and I wanted to talk about the wardrobe man or research him, but I was kind of playing a game, like a challenge in a way. But to talk about this idea of conducting research, my movie is kind of about an incomplete research. And actually, no research is complete. You cannot really conduct a complete research. It's impossible. You would be always missing some facts and some information. So I tried to be very honest by showing how incomplete my research is in a way. So I'll let you translate the last part.
Before I translate, I will just say that one of the things I love most about your movie is its open-endedness. The fact that it's evident that this is not an attempt to be a conclusive research. So I'm going to translate.
Cool.
Bassem habla entonces de que esto que mencionaba del humor y del absurdo de hacer una investigación acerca de un hombre del que casi nada se sabe, excepto que vivía en un ropero, aislado como un ermitaño en las afueras del pueblo. Es muy importante este punto porque, digamos, ¿qué es lo que determina que una historia sea digna de ser contada? ¿Por qué la de este hombre y no la de alguien más? ¿O por qué la de, digamos, los grandes estatistas y no las personas que están en el margen? Y de algún modo, todas las historias son dignas de ser contadas. Y otra cosa que dice Bassem y que es esencial en esta película es el asunto de la investigación. O sea, para él esta investigación está incompleta porque toda investigación está incompleta. No hay una investigación que sea total, solo que en esta pieza se hace evidente digamos, los huecos que hay por todos lados. So, back to you, Bassem.
So in most of my work, actually, even my installations, I realized over the years that I have this, it's not a goal, but it's an attempt to look at the same thing from various angles at the same time. I have this aspiration to be objective in a way. Can I actually look at something as myself, but also as other people? Can I see how somebody who disagrees with me completely, can I actually try to understand how they see this situation or this topic? And this is why I kind of mix the documentary with the fiction. It's an attempt to look at the subject from various perspectives or contradicting perspectives at the same time, which is an impossible endeavor of course, but it's something that I try to achieve in all of my works, like installation, even drawing or film.
Which is also, I'm going to translate after what I just said. It's also human-centered in fiction scenes, make this like the detective map and with Shady. Yes. Bueno, lo que dice Bassem es que esto se relaciona también con su trabajo como, digamos, cuando hace instalaciones, donde lo que hace es tratar de que observar dos puntos de vista y que incluso sean de vista que sean contradictorios. Es decir, podemos tener una cuestión de alguno sobre un tema, incluso con alguien que no está de acuerdo con nosotros. Esas son algunas de las preguntas que le gusta hacerse a Bassem.
You were breaking up late, like I didn't catch.
You couldn't hear? Okay, so I'm gonna seize the opportunity to relate what you were saying to other stuff I want to know about the movie. To me, one of the subjects, or one of the many subjects that is touched upon in this movie is memory and how collective memory is formed. And you already mentioned a little bit of this, why is there an archive that keeps materials related to a man who lived in a closet in a small town in Denmark, and one else. And your movie is a portrait of this man, sort of, but it is also a portrait of you and a portrait of the little town and of this community, even the landscape. It is to me very meaningful that the area didn't have many trees, but that the wardrobe man planted some trees when he needed money, and afterward the township used some more, I mean, to plant the tree, or that we as viewers can see in your footage when you were in Denmark. So your movie is also recording of two moments or different moments of this little town in Denmark, but viewed by you.
Very much, Maria. Do you want to translate your comment?
Yes.
Yeah.
Entonces, otro asunto que me gustaría comentar con Bassem es cómo se construye la memoria, no solo la memoria personal, sino la memoria colectiva, en el sentido de, un poco ya lo mencionamos antes, pero digamos, ¿qué es lo que determina que un archivo sí registre la vida de este hombre bastante peculiar que vivía como un ermitaño en esta casita y no sea otra persona? Al mismo tiempo, la película de Bassem es un registro, por ejemplo, también de cómo ha cambiado el paisaje en ese pueblo. Le decía que para mí es muy significativo que antes en este paisaje casi no hubiera árboles y que este hombre del ropero haya plantado algunos árboles cuando necesitaba dinero. Es decir, es un hombre que modificó el paisaje y que posteriormente la municipalidad también plantó más árboles. Y en la película de Bassem queda registrado, digamos, el pasado, donde se mira este paisaje primero sin árboles y después sin árboles. Bueno, o sea, digamos, todo esto tiene que ver con cómo registra la memoria, cómo se va creando la memoria colectiva y la historia. So, do you want to keep building on what you were saying, or should we go on to...
There is actually a very important point related to your comment, and it's regarding the choice of telling this whole story as a dream. And it has something to do with this idea of memory, because sometimes I think that how we remember history collectively is similar to waking up and knowing that you had a dream, but you cannot really remember everything. You know that it happened, but you can't remember everything, and then it becomes like a very absurd memory in a way. And sometimes I feel that history could be distorted in the same way, that it becomes like the subconscious of humanity, but then sometimes it's distorted consciously by politicians, by historians, by ideologies. And sometimes it's just distorted because of lack of information and time distance, like it's the distance with time. So I felt that it was quite appropriate actually to talk about history in this absurd setting, about this memory, not to take it too seriously, not to tell it as the truth. It's not the truth, it's a truth in a way. It's how I saw this. So it's only one narrative. And I try to acknowledge that it's only one narrative by kind of making fun of myself in the process, or making fun of my findings in the process. So yeah.
Yeah, just, yes, and I love this dreamlike quality because it's very suitable to the footage, like the opening sequence, for instance. I'm going to translate. Lo que dice Bassem es que esto que mencionaba antes de cómo se hace la memoria, cómo se construye la memoria, tanto personal como colectiva, tiene que ver con otro punto que le parece fundamental del filme, que es la historia para él es como una especie de sueño. Él lo compara con cómo nos acordamos de los sueños cuando nos acabamos de levantar y cómo el sueño se modifica, se distorsiona, ya sea por la falta de un recuerdo completo o porque tiene un lenguaje distinto al de nuestra vigilia, al de la conciencia. Entonces, esto o algo parecido sucede con la historia a la hora en que se registra, se distorsiona, se modifica, ya sea por intereses políticos o por ideológicos, o sea, intereses ideológicos. Entonces, digamos, no hay una sola verdad, sino hay una verdad, un ángulo, un interés, una perspectiva que tiene que ver con no solo la información que tenemos disponible, sino también con la historia que queremos contar. So back to you.
Sure. I mean, I don't have something to expand on this for now, but I'm ready for more questions.
Okay. Yes. So yeah, I would like to know about the script, because part of the process of your film is transparent in the film itself. We can see you in Denmark questioning people, playing to be detective, really making people uncomfortable, which I know you like. But I can also sense in that process your own discomfort, because you probably didn't know what to do with this in the beginning. But the second part of the process is also very interesting to me. And I would like you to expand on that, because I understand that there was a collective work, not only with your friend Sherry, which is that part of the process is sort of explicit in the movie too, but also with your brother Salam. Could you please expand on that?
Sure.
Let me just translate. I forgot. Le estoy preguntando a Bassem acerca del proceso, o sea, cómo fue, cómo se hizo el guión, porque parte del proceso de la película se explicita en la misma película. Vemos a Bassem haciendo la investigación, digamos, preguntándole a la gente acerca de este hombre, del señor del ropero, pero la otra parte, digamos, ya una vez que registró el video, entrevistó a las personas del pueblo, etcétera, hay otra parte que vale la pena examinar, que es cómo se hizo el guión para, digamos, incluir las partes ficcionadas e integrar el todo. So how did you integrate the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very important part of the making. So I'm actually very glad that you're focusing on it. So the collaboration started right before leaving Denmark to go to the airport, actually, and me feeling completely lost. But then coming up with a very sudden, intuitive idea of asking Klaus, the man holding the mallet in the beginning of the movie. He's the one who invited me actually to participate in this program. So I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to be honest about how lost I am. This is the first thing to solve the problem. So I told him, okay, I need you to help me, like to act a scene for me. And he didn't take me seriously, and it was a big struggle. Like I told him, okay, I need you to grab this mallet. We'll go in the middle of the field, and then I want you to say in a very angry way to me, Bassem, you have to come to Denmark and make a video about the wardrobe man. And he didn't take it seriously at all. So we kept repeating it, and he got very impatient at some point. And I told him, okay, that's fine, Klaus, I'll see what I can do with this. And I left without feeling that I have anything to work with, even that acted scene. So that was the first kind of collaboration that gave me a leeway to, okay, how to approach this whole project. But then I started looking at the documentary footage upon my return, and I collected some, like I created some kind of narrative out of the confusion that I felt. And then I left some black gaps between various sequences. And then I started recording very primitive sentences with my voice saying, okay, here there will be like me in the wardrobe with Shadi talking about something, but without a very clear idea. And once I finished building this draft, I contacted Shadi and I told him, okay, this is the story. I showed him the documentary. Are you interested in writing with me some dialogue and acting with me inside my wardrobe in Cairo? And he was immediately interested. So it didn't take us very long actually to write the script. We had, I think, five sessions where we just like spent a few hours kind of going back and forth. And we inspired some of the conversations by previous conversations that we had before and we completely disagreed upon, like the one about the fact that all human relationships are based
utilitarian.
Yeah, very pragmatic. Shadi and I disagree on that matter very much. So we kind of included it, and it had something to do with the wardrobe man, of course, because his relationships to the people surrounding him, are they based on mutual benefit or not? Is there something as true love or true friendship or not? So it became very philosophical in a way. I'll let you translate that, and then I will talk about Salam's contribution.
Thank you, Bassem. I was beginning to wonder.
Yeah.
So, la primera parte de lo que dice Bassem, dice que una vez que, no, la primera colaboración que tuvo para armar la película, ya una vez terminado el proceso de registro en Dinamarca, dice que tuvo lugar, ocurrió de irse de Dinamarca. Fue cuando le pidió a Klaus, fue lo que es el tipo que sale con el hacha en alguna película, y dice, Bassem, tienes que venir a hacer una película sobre el hombre del ropero. Y esa primera escena, digamos, fue la piedra fundacional, aunque todavía no tenía ni idea de por dónde iba a ir. Y que después, la siguiente colaboración importante fue con su amigo Shady, con quien escribió Guion. Dice que les tomó 5 sesiones y que lo que hicieron fue discusiones que han tenido como amigos sobre puntos sobre los que están en desacuerdo. Por ejemplo, una acerca de si todas las relaciones tienen que ver con el beneficio propio, es decir, nos relacionamos con uno con otro porque el otro nos da un beneficio, o sea, son utilitarias, o nos relacionamos como amigos o como amantes por las cualidades del otro. ¿Existe el amor verdadero, una cosa así o no? Y que la cosa se puso muy filosófica. Back to you, Bassem.
And then regarding Salam's contribution, my brother, who's an artist as well, he's a really a multidisciplinary artist, a painter,
playwright.
Theater, yeah, playwright. He has a theater practice, and also a writer. Like he's a very prolific artist, and we are very close, and we don't have similar practices in ideologically. Like we disagree on a lot of things, but we understand each other very well, and we appreciate each other's work very much, and we think alike. We agree on the main things in life. Like we share similar views, but sometimes we disagree on certain details. But anyways, I thought in the beginning, because I'm a big believer that if you have $1, you can make a film. But if you have $1 million, you can still make a film. So it's just a different film. And I always think to myself, I'm not gonna let working, like having a producer or production money stop me from making any project. So in the beginning, I thought, okay, I will actually put the camera in front on a tripod, and then I will go to turn the camera on, and then go back to the wardrobe and act the scenes with Shadi, which is a very idiotic idea. It would have been a really terrible film if I had done that. So Salam, my brother, offered to film the fiction scenes, and I actually let him make the creative decisions. So he came, he looked at the setting, and he said, okay, I'm going to be inside the wardrobe with you and Shadi. This has to be a very claustrophobic space. And I immediately told him, yes, this is it. This is perfect. And he was completely free to actually move with the camera, choose to zoom on Shadi sometimes and on me sometimes. We had several takes of the same dialogue sometimes, just to have some variations. But it was kind of his decision to make how to film the fiction scenes. It was not, I was not directing anymore in that part. Mm-hmm. So I consider Salam to be a very big contributor to this part of the making.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a very claustrophobic feeling get in the wardrobe. I'm going to translate. Otra parte tuvo que ver con una colaboración con el hermano de Bassem, Bassem Yousri, artista, multidisciplinario, es dramaturgo y que tiene, digamos, una visión y un estilo muy diferente al de Bassem. Dice que luego se pelean y no están de acuerdo en ciertas cosas, pero que son buenos colaboradores. Entonces, Salam se ofreció para participar en la grabación de las escenas ficcionales en las que aparecen Bassem y Shedi hablando en el ropero, y que Bassem le dio libertad creativa, lo cual para él fue un acierto total, porque él decidió que tenía que tener un sabor claustrofóbico estas tomas, y entonces estaba muy ahí dentro del closet con ellos dos. Please go on, Bassem.
Another contributor that I would like, because I'm very lucky actually to be surrounded by very creative friends who I can trust creatively, and I can trust on a personal level as well. So I also did not have a plan to have a sound designer or a sound, like I was working with a sound person on kind of fixing the sound on the mix, but he was not really a sound designer, and things did not go very well. And I was showing the film to some friends, and then this friend of mine, who's a very good musician and sound engineer, he told me, forget about the other guy, I will finish this film with you, and I'm not taking any money. And wow. His name is Adham Zidane. And I have to say that also his contribution made this film way better than it would have been if he hadn't worked with me. So yeah, so that's it regarding this point.
Thank you. Otra contribución, otra colaboración que hizo posible esta película fue, Bassem tiene un amigo músico, ingeniero, que le ayudó a hacer el diseño sonoro. Lo había intentado antes con un especialista, pero no había funcionado y este amigo se ofreció. Entonces es una colaboración creativa, dice Bassem, que él se siente muy afortunado de estar rodeado de gente en las que puede confiar no solo en el aspecto creativo, sino también personal. Bassem, I'm going to throw in a question from the audience.
Okay.
Juliana Rodarte is asking, could there be relationships that at the same time utilitarian and... Of course, you don't have to answer to that, but it's a funny question.
So I lost the last word. So could there be relationships that are at the same time utilitarian and
based on
love? Of course. I mean, when we speak philosophically, we tend to isolate the personal from the equation in a way, and this is a very philosophical thought. This does not mean that I conduct my relationships based on mutual benefit, but actually love relationships are based on mutual...
That's your take, that's your vision. I'm with Shadi.
But so my answer is yes. Juliana is her name?
Yes, Juliana.
Yeah, I mean, we always benefit one another. Let's not look at it from this is my opinion again, but how I see it, we always benefit one another. There is some kind of a level of pragmatism, but it's emotional pragmatism. If I'm not getting any care from a person that I care for, I would stop caring from them in a way, and vice versa. So that's what I mean by emotional benefit. We tend to help other people, and we think to ourselves that one day I will be helped by somebody, even if we don't not the same person. So we always have this built in my opinion, like we're built like that. We always, like even people's relationship with religion, you do good in your life so that you can go to heaven after you die. It's also very pragmatic. So that's my answer to you, Juliana.
Okay. Lo que dice Bassem para el público hispanohablante es que, bueno, cuando empezamos con estas preguntas filosóficas tendemos a aislar o a, digamos, separar las cosas demasiado. Y la visión de Bassem es que las relaciones pueden estar, sí, basadas en el amor, pero siempre, de algún modo, esperamos un beneficio del otro. Y dice que este es el principio también que lleva al creyente a practicar, de alguna manera, como en las grandes religiones, ¿no? Siempre se espera una recompensa. Si yo soy bueno, entonces voy a tener una recompensa. Y hay un pragmatismo, esta es la visión de Bassem, que digamos que es inherente a toda relación amorosa. Thank you, Bassem. So I also wanted to talk about this mirror quality, that like in the structure of your movie, I see a mirror. There's the wardrobe man that lives in this little hut that he moved wherever he wanted to go, and there's your wardrobe in your place where you think about him, but you talk about yourself and you have this conversation with your friends. And I think that's also one of the fortunate creative decisions in your movie. Can you talk a little bit more about that, please? I'm gonna translate.
Yeah.
Le pregunto a Bassem por esta estructura en el espejo, o sea, como un espejo que hizo, que le dio estas dos partes a su película, que es, digamos, la parte del ropero en Dinamarca y la parte que ocurre en el ropero, las conversaciones entre él y su amigo, y donde se habla del hombre del ropero, pero también se habla de Bassem, el personaje, ¿no? Y de Shedi, su amigo, como personaje. Please.
So, I mean, some creative decisions are based on intuition at the time. Not everything is always following a very strict and clear plan. But I think that there's something very symbolic about me sitting inside a wardrobe and even taking things out of another wardrobe, which is the bag.
The suitcase. Uh-huh.
The wardrobe is a place where a lot of personal things hide, in a way. Mm-hmm. And I actually, when I went to Denmark, I opened a drawer of this archive. I opened another wardrobe full of treasures about another person who lived in his wardrobe. So there's something very symbolic about the wardrobe in this story. And but I think the decision came from also a personal space where I thought to myself, okay, what if I try to live his life for a moment? For a few hours. The filming took 2 days, actually 2 very long days of footage. The scenes with Shadi, and it was very exhausting. It was
for your knees, right? Yes.
My back, my knees, my neck, everything. It was just a really terrible, a very terrible experience. But so I think there was part of me where, yes, I'm capitalizing on this symbolism of the wardrobe as a place where personal things could be unveiled or stored, personal histories, smells, objects. So because our clothes carry something from us. This is the first time I actually verbalize this, thanks to your question. It's not always something that I think about. So yeah, I mean, I think this was the reason behind the intuitive decision of just like, I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to sit in my wardrobe and then see what happens.
Okay. Bassem dice que, de hecho, esa fue digamos que no todas las decisiones creativas son tan planeadas y que esa fue una decisión bastante intuitiva. De hecho, sí hay un símbolo muy poderoso en el ropero, este espacio donde guardamos nuestras cosas personales, a veces incluso secretas, que tienen nuestros olores, por ejemplo, si guardamos nuestros zapatos o nuestra ropa. El archivo es de algún modo también una especie de, digamos, es un gabinete donde guardan personales, y otra vez esto ata o vincula lo personal con lo colectivo, ¿no? Un archivo de algún modo es un ropero, un closet, donde se guarda, digamos, lo que se considera valioso de una comunidad. Y dice Bassem que esta es la primera vez que lo dice, que habla de esto explícitamente, que fue una decisión intuitiva. Do you want to keep building on that, or should we go to another question?
Let's take another question.
Okay. We haven't talked about the figure of the hermit, of the recluse, of the man that goes away in order to lead his life, a peculiar life, which also, I think, establishes the tone of the movie to a certain point. Do you agree?
Yeah. Of course, this is a very important part of it, and I'll let you translate the question and I'll answer.
le pregunto a Bassem por el asunto de que el hombre del ropero sea un ermitaño, digamos, un hombre que haya decidido aislarse como una seta digamos, de la compañía de los otros, y que sin embargo es acompañado desde lejos e incluso guardado en la memoria del pueblo. Please.
So over the years, and I'm not a person who's against technology at all. I actually believe that progress is something we should embrace and we should use to make our lives easier, make communication easier. So I'm not one of those people who are angry at social media and this accessibility that we have 24 hours. But at the same time, over the years, and I never thought I would reach that point where I'm kind of sick of crowded cities. I'm sick of this feeling, and I wasn't aware of that. But I think it became very apparent how monitored we are in all of our activities, in the streets. The amount of video cameras that are in the public, surveillance cameras that are in the public space right now is just like insane. It becomes suffocating sometimes to feel that this is not really a humane way to live one's life. Like sometimes I would think to myself, the wise thing to do is to leave that behind and just go and live, without actually having to impress anybody or achieve anything. What if I just live in a nice house somewhere where I'm in touch with animals and nature? I'm against owning pets, for example, but what if I live in a place where there are lots of dogs and cats and foxes and other animals who live around me, and then we become friends, so we hang out during the day, but then everyone sleeps wherever at night, for example. So I have this notion. It's a philosophical notion. I'm not going to do that. I cannot. But at the same time, it struck me that once I came to face with a man who actually made the decision. He was a photographer, so he was kind of an artist like me. And he drew, he wrote poetry. He's a creative mind in a way. And he seems to be a very decent, kind person who decided to leave everything aside, regardless of his reasons. He had reasons that I'm not fully aware of. Once I came to touch with this man, I immediately jumped to the conclusion that he was a crazy man. And this really struck me. Like, what kind of contradiction is that? Like, philosophically speaking, I have this romantic idea of doing that. But then I make a judgment on a person who actually did it willingly and very happily and gracefully. So, I'll let you translate that.
Okay. Ese es un aspecto importante, o sea, digamos, él no se considera un tecnófobo, él no piensa que la tecnología necesariamente tenga que ser maligna, pero sí de pronto le abruma la cantidad de vigilancia, digamos, eso, como le parece abrumadora la vigilancia a la que estamos sometidos en las grandes ciudades. Y entonces, por una parte, digamos, idealmente, como a todos otros, existe el tropo de irse al bosque o a un lugar aislado donde solo vivan animales, que está en contra de tener mascotas, porque, digamos, atentaría contra la libertad de algún modo del animal, pero donde tuviera contacto con otros seres vivos que pudieran irse después, ¿no? O sea, digamos, una suerte de convivencia sin restricciones. Y también, o sea, parte de ese tropo, de ese ideal, tiene que ver con desligarse de las exigencias de este mundo en el cual estamos o nos sentimos obligados a impresionar o a lograr alcanzar el éxito de alguna manera. Y que contradictoriamente, cuando se topó con este hombre, que era pues un tipo que logró llevar una vida como ermitaño con cierta gracia y dignidad, y que era además un tipo, al parecer, sensible, creativo, que escribía, escribía poemas, también dibujaba. Lo juzgó y dijo, digamos, su primer pensamiento es, este tipo estaba loco. Entonces hay como una contradicción, ¿no? En esta mente que por una parte anhela ese tipo de retiro hacia lo natural, el contacto con uno mismo y con otras criaturas, libertad, al mismo tiempo juzga lo hace.
Sure. So, I mean, this is a very important point, actually. This relationship between my contradictions, also, like to highlight my contradictions, like to be aware of my contradictions. It really struck me at that time. So yeah, I mean, I'm not adding anything, but you made me think of this again.
Okay. Yes. There's this, I suddenly go back to my notes. Yeah, there's this relationship between the personal and the collective all the time, I think, in your movie, because there's a decision of this man to lead his life in a certain way, but this is also the way he related to the collective, to the history. There's even a conversation about him not knowing about World War II. I think it was World War II. He wasn't aware of that. And there were some German soldiers coming to his cabin and questioning him and suddenly realizing that he was harmless, right? So there's this intersection between the personal and the collective all the time. And this is also one of your interests in your work as a whole. Right? Estoy preguntando a Bassem, o estoy haciendo hincapié en esa relación que hay todo el tiempo en su obra entre lo personal y lo colectivo. O sea, cómo esta decisión del tipo del hombre del closet, del hombre del ropero, de irse a vivir de forma aislada, también tiene que ver con una decisión consciente de cómo relacionarse con su contexto histórico. Hay en algún punto en la película una conversación acerca de cómo él no sabía que la Segunda Guerra Mundial estaba ocurriendo. Creo que se tardó 2 años en enterarse, porque llegaron unos soldados alemanes a jugarlo. Se dieron cuenta que era inofensivo, lo dejaron en paz. Pero entonces le decía yo a Bassem acerca de esta intersección que hay en su obra, y si puede hablar un poco más de ella. Uh-huh.
I mean, this is also another very important part of the process, and as you said, this is something that really concerns me in all of my practices. But regarding this funny story of him not being aware of World War II taking place and the Germans invading the shores of Denmark, it makes me think of, is it really important to know that there's a war happening? Can we actually isolate ourselves from bad news or aggression that is happening outside of our world? Of course, being aware of a war happening is an important thing, but I mean, I start my day every day by drinking my coffee and watching the news. This is this is how I start my day. So it's quite the opposite of this man. But I think I'm branching out from the main question, which is the relationship between the personal and the collective.
You're sort of touching upon it, right? Because drinking coffee, it's also a political statement, and yes. Watching the news relates to the context. But whatever. So
no,
let me throw in. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was trying to throw in a question from the audience.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Is that okay? Okay. Luis Manuel Acosta asked you, would you agree that a script should have room for not planned decisions and intuitive decisions, like the unplanned? I'm going to translate. Si estás de acuerdo, Bassem, en que un guión debe incluir, o debe dejar espacio más bien para lo intuitivo y para lo que surja en el camino.
Of course. So, is everybody in your program studying film? Are they film students?
No, the undergraduate students, yes, they're film students, but the students of the master's degree, they come from all walks of life.
Okay, I just wanted to understand who I'm addressing. Of course, Manuela. It's Manuela, right? Manuel. It's a man. Okay. So Manuel, I think, of course, I agree that there has to be room for improvisation. But this really relates to my personal process. Actually, I never write a script before I start making a film. And even my installations, I never know what they would look exactly like until I start putting them in the gallery space. So I think the key for me is to have some knowledge of what I want to say and how I want to say it. But what exactly the details will be, these are intuitive decisions that I make on the spot. And I tend to work in a way that is kind of like some kind of growth that happens and keeps expanding. So I start with one element, and then I look at the element and I look at other elements that I have, and then I decide, okay, I'm going to put this next to it. And then I keep shuffling things around until by intuition, I feel that, okay, this is done. This is enough. Good. My story is told. So this is how I work. There is something new that happened in the process with this film, where the scenes that I filmed with Shadi were quite scripted. But at the same time, there was the flexibility of changing things a little bit. So I would personally say that I would always work in such way where there's always room to change things around. There's no very strict plan, no matter what the medium is.
Aquí Bassem dijo algo muy interesante, sí está de acuerdo con Luis Manuel, hay que dejar espacio para esas decisiones intuitivas, pero también explicó algo de su proceso, de cómo a veces no sabe por dónde empezar, pero a partir, digamos, parte de algo y de ahí, digamos, va moviendo las piezas hasta que se arma el rompecabezas y dice, bueno, ya ahora sí ya quedó la historia. And this brings me to another question, Bassem, that has to do with that. To go on to the current movie you're working on, the romantic story. As I understand this project that you are working on, it is partly scripted, and it was a collaboration with 10 friends or 10 people, 10 people you invited to write some scenes, but there's also footage of the revolution that took place in Egypt in 2011. And this also touches upon the other aspect that we were talking about, the intersection between the personal and the collective, right? Because then you have this collaboration that in which there are people who are telling their personal, the stories that they personally want to tell, but this is intertwined with the political context. And it's not, well, it is deliberate, but it is also kind of accidental because it wasn't part of the plan, right? I'm going to translate.
Sure.
Esa pregunta, lo que le estoy preguntando a Bassem es, en las dos películas, digamos, The Wardrobe Man y su nuevo proyecto que se llama Una historia romántica, y el título es sarcástico, se parte de escenas que están guionadas, como sucede en la parte ficticia de The Wardrobe Man, del hombre del ropero, pero también hay un montón de pietaje que tiene que ver con lo que ocurre en la calle. Este nuevo proyecto, pues bueno, no es nuevo, ya muchos años trabajando en él. Este proyecto que está inconcluso se hizo en el 2011, cuando ocurrió la revolución en Egipto, y que fue parte, digamos, de lo que Bassem decidió grabar. Please go ahead, Bassem.
Sure. Maybe this is a good time to show the little trailer of the film. Then I will talk more about it.
Yes. Bassem va a mostrar el tráiler de esta película.
So yeah.
انا هعمل فيلم رومانسي.
Okay, so I thought of showing this before talking about it because there is a very important point related to working on this film and then setting it aside for 10 years now, a little more. I started the process at the end of 2010. I had just returned from living 5 years in the United States, and I had this idea of kind of rebuilding my connection with Cairo, with Egypt, with the people, with the context. And I thought, okay, I'm going to work with a group of people, and we are going to come up with a script for a romantic movie. But the movie is not about the script. It's more about the creative process, but also the personal stories of the participants, which, as you said, I started with 25, but then I ended up with 10 participants. It was too much, 25. And to me, the plan was to mix this creative process, the documentary of the creative process, with the personal stories and whatever is happening in the lives of these participants, but also to film some parts of the script as fiction and merge everything. And then a month after we started the process, a revolution started, and then the political scene took over. We kept getting interrupted because it was a really major event that really interrupted the flow of life in the city over 3 years, actually, not just for a few weeks. So we kept stopping and coming back to the process. It ended like I thought the workshop will take 3 months to finish, and then it ended up taking a year. I'll let you translate that and then I will continue.
Okay. Bassem explica que esta película, The Romantic Film, una historia romántica, es un proyecto que lleva más de 10 años por varias razones. La primera es, empezó a finales de 2010 y en 2011 inició esta revolución en Egipto que modificó todas las cosas. Y entonces, digamos, él invitó a 25 personas a un taller donde ellos iban a escribir historias y sus historias se iban a incluir como dentro, se iban a contar también las historias de estas personas y en ese momento, digamos, irrumpió esta era mucho más largo. Yes, Bassem.
So the main idea in my head was to actually investigate the relationship between mainstream media and art versus our daily lives and what we encounter. So there's always this really unrealistic image of love and relationships in films, in mainstream films. And I'm not just talking about Egyptian films, like American films. In Mexico also, I'm quite sure it's the same thing. You have your really weird soap operas. They're really famous. I never watched a full soap opera, but I kind of, yeah. I watched a few episodes one time from El Patrón del Mal. Is it Mexican one?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with the subject, sorry.
Yeah, it's about it's about Escobar, actually.
No, then it isn't Mexico.
Yeah, it's not taking place in Mexico, but I remember somebody told me it's a Mexican show. Anyways, I might be completely wrong here. So anyways, the point is that I wanted to actually investigate, okay, what do we talk about? What do we talk about when we talk about love? What do we go through on daily basis? And then make a movie out of that pretends to be about something else. So that was the main idea. But then I realized that things changed completely, and I didn't know what the movie is about anymore because the reality changed very much.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up postponing working on processing the footage and editing it. And it ended up taking me 10 years to be able to return and decide to actually work on this movie. I'll let you translate that part, and then there's one point that I want to mention last.
Okay. Lo que dice Bassem de esta película fue, digamos, examinar la relación entre los medios masivos, digamos, cómo se representa el amor romántico en sí, los medios masivos y en el arte, y cómo eso, digamos, se traduce en nuestra experiencia cotidiana, o sea, nuestra experiencia del amor romántico. I summarized a lot.
Yeah, cool. Please do that because I tend to give very long answers. So I actually ended up with the Wardrobe Man achieving, in terms of artistic form, I actually achieved what I wanted to achieve in the romantic movie because I felt that there was something inside me that really wanted to get out. Because I'm not only concerned about the subject matter that I'm talking about, I'm also concerned about the medium, the artistic medium that I choose to deliver the story or the narrative. So I think the Wardrobe Man ended up being the form that I wanted to achieve in film romance. It's kind of I would say a rehearsal. It's not a rehearsal, but
Mm-hmm.
This film, now that I'm starting to work on it again, I'm working with an editor right now on the initial editing, and then I will follow a similar process where after I edit, I will decide which fiction scenes to be filmed. I will gather people, hopefully again, and then we will start acting and filming these scenes, and then I will mix everything together. So it will follow a similar process, and it will have a similar artistic form. In a way,
Approach.
Approach.
As a Wardrobe Man?
Yeah, I think this mixture of, it will be a very different movie, but the mixture between fiction and documentary, personal stories versus told narrative stories or fiction stories, I think this will be a very common ground between both projects.
Mm-hmm. I love what you said about that first take of your movie as a rehearsal. You didn't know it was a rehearsal of sorts, but maybe you realized at some point that this work needed more time to be correctly brewed, to say it somehow, right? I'm going to translate. Entonces, Bassem lo que dice es que va, digamos, la idea detrás de esta película en la que sigue hablando, también fue accidentalmente afectada por el texto histórico, y eso hizo que se convirtiera en otra cosa, aunque, digamos, la mezcla de esos es similar a la que ocurre en El hombre del ropero, porque también tiene estas pietaje, digamos, documental, tiene escenas ficticias, y de algún modo ese pietaje documenta lo ocurrido en Egipto en 2011. Dice que también, o sea, digamos, el proyecto partió no solo de su interés en el tema, digamos, cómo la idea del amor romántico ha sido representado y cómo se traduce a nuestra experiencia cotidiana, sino también a una exploración del medio, de los recursos del cine. Please go on, Bassem.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. It's just like this relationship between actually, now that I think about it, this became archival footage now. So I'm going to be looking at
yes, that's what I said.
Yeah, 10 years ago, and my relationship to it, to the era, whatever was happening, to myself, actually seeing myself at that time, this version of me 10 years ago is quite a
You look
difficult.
very young.
Yeah, I mean, it's 10 years ago, and actually, I don't like that version of me very much. Like, I was an asshole in a way.
I'm not going to translate that.
No, I mean, there were some decisions on how to communicate with people, on how to conduct this workshop that I'm not very satisfied with now. Like, I feel like if I do a similar project now, I will have a completely different approach. But again, I'm a different version of myself. So it's kind of a personal exercise as well to re-examine this this part of my life, this section of my life, and the life of the participants. Half of them were friends of mine, and half of them were people that I just met for the first time, and then we became friends. So it's going to be a very interesting process to me.
Yes, because there's also this this still of 2011, and then, well, it's you have these two slices, and the process in between 2011, 2021, 22. We don't know how long it will take, and that also shows an evolution. Talking about evolution, I wanted also to talk about your evolution as an artist, because this is also related to your two movies, right? So how did you shift from installation to the movie medium, and why? Bueno, va a hablar Bassem de su evolución como artista. Le preguntaba, o sea, esto tiene que ver con lo que estamos hablando acerca de su proyecto inconcluso, cómo fue que evolucionó de la instalación a el cine.
I wouldn't say that I shifted from installation to film, because I'm actually working on a new body of work that is like sculptural installations. Like I go to my studio often, and I develop some new pieces that have nothing to do with video. But I would say that the journey of the evolution that you're talking about was mainly about understanding why am I making art at the first place. So the first time we met, Maria, we were in the United States, both doing some studies, and part of traveling, I was actually trained as a painter, as a figurative painter during my undergrad, but I was not very satisfied with that, because I felt that, okay, why am I painting? I need to figure out what I'm doing as art. And then when I was doing my master's, I started kind of revolting against painting. I started adding some cartoonish characters to the figures, the realistic figures. And then little by little, I felt stuck. I felt that my personality and my ideas are not coming through the drawings or the paintings. And I had a thought in my head, I'm talking about 2007 here. I had a thought in my head that I really want my paintings and my drawings to talk. And then I got this idea of, okay, I'm going to make a film. And I had absolutely no experience with filming or editing. I just had an impulse that told me, you have to make a film. And at that time, I was returning to Egypt for a month to spend vacation during the summer. And my brother had gotten a new small camera, and the cameras were not as good as the cameras now. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to film random things that happen in my everyday. And when I return to the States, I will edit it, and I will transform it into a film. So I'll let you translate that, and then I will expand on it to how this led to what I'm doing now.
Okay. Bassem, entonces bueno, primero me corrigió, no es que haya evolucionado de la instalación al cine, porque sigue haciendo instalación. Mi pregunta más bien tenía que ver con cómo se relaciona, ¿no? Cómo evolucionó de una cosa a otra. Y lo que explicó es que él inicialmente su formación fue como pintor. Él estudió en Egipto, en la universidad pública, y esa era la formación que había, ¿no? Era como pintor, y después, al irse a hacer maestría en Estados Unidos, se sentía insatisfecho de lo que estaba y entonces primero empezó a incluir unas figuritas como medio infantiles que le parecían todavía bastante inmaduras, pero que abrieron una puerta a otro tipo de expresión artística, y que en algún momento pensó, es que mis pinturas tendrían que hablar. Y entonces en una vacación en la cual regresó a Egipto, su hermano acaba de comprar una cámara, y entonces él empezó a hacer experimentos grabando cosas. Y así fue como se acercó primero al cine. Please go on, Bassem.
So yeah, I really struggled to teach myself video editing, and it was just a really painful experience. But then once I started working with video for the first time in my life, I realized that I'm more concerned with context rather than objects. Mm-hmm. So it's not about really creating an object or creating a painting or a drawing or a flat surface. It's more about creating a film. Is an installation in a way. It's kind of it's a narrative. And after that, I started making mixed media installations where I treat the whole space as the surface of the painting. I would work with clay. I would also make drawings on the wall. I would work with various objects. And this really led me to this more prolific practice where the medium is not the starting point. It's more the idea is the starting point, and then the medium comes after that. And then it's also a journey of learning various things. So there is a lot of craft that comes into play, and I like to work with my own hands, whether it's video editing or making something. So right now I'm learning to become a better carpenter, for example, because I need to build some big objects, and I was never a carpenter. So it's part of the process also for me. Yeah. Okay. So this is my answer to the evolution of my work and coming to these projects.
Yes, I'm glad you corrected me, because I knew it. I knew that you still do installation. It's more the relationship between the installation and the movie, which you just answered. So I'm going to try to translate that because it's a very dense answer. So, lo que dice Bassem es, bueno, primero entonces tuvo que aprender a editar, y esa parte fue difícil, pues como aprender desde cero. Pero después se volvió un juego donde el medio el objeto no es lo que importa, sino es el proceso y lo que se puede hacer con una mezcla de medios, ¿no? Entonces, por ejemplo, si le gusta de pronto hacer figuras de barro, si alguno de ustedes quiere después investigar la obra de Bassem, tiene unas instalaciones justo con figuritas de barro que son muy interesantes. Pero donde el trato que le da la galería es, digamos, la galería es el lienzo. Y hay un componente narrativo en esto que es afín a lo que se hace en el cine. So I'm going to throw in other questions from the public. And we don't have that much time left, but I'll try to throw in some questions and then wrap up, if you agree. So, Allow is asking, what do you think about filming first the scenes that are just coming along as signs or as a surprise, although they are not, even though there is not, what opinion do you have of that? And she's talking about documentary.
Okay, you were breaking up, so I didn't get the full question.
Okay. What is your opinion about filming just whatever comes up as a surprise first without having a script in a documentary? ¿Qué opinión tienes sobre filmar las escenas que ocurren por sorpresa cuando se trata de documental, cuando no tienes sin tener un guión?
Personally speaking, I know that other filmmakers, when they are doing documentaries, they actually write scripts of what they want to film first. But I cannot work in such way. So actually, I would always film whatever is happening in front of me. So for the movie that I'm resuming the work on, the romantic movie, I actually have 200 hours of footage because I was just filming whatever. And I cannot work in a different way. So chance has a lot to do with documentary filmmaking for me. I cannot really dictate what happens. I cannot not act as though things are spontaneous, whereas I'm actually deciding beforehand what to film and what not to film. So I would always film randomly and then make a narrative out of this randomness.
Ok. Lo que dice Bassem es que su método de trabajo, o sea, que sabe que hay algunos documentalistas en guion ir a firmar, digamos, como una lista de lo que uno quiere, que él no trabaja así, que en general esta la de romantic movie, 200 horas de pietaje, y que bueno, o sea, por la expresión que puso, sabe que es un positivo, pero que ese es su de trabajo. Okay, Bassem. So I just wanted to wrap up. I'm so grateful that we could have this conversation, Bassem. It's been a real pleasure. I just wanted to talk about the closing scene of the Wardrobe Man movie, which I find very symbolic and beautiful, because there's this curtain. There's a slit in the curtain through which you can see the portrait of the Wardrobe Man. And it is almost as if we could see the slit through which we can see reality, that is always incomplete. And that closes the movie in a beautiful way, along with the epitaph of the Wardrobe Man, this room that cannot be deciphered. There are runes that cannot be understood or deciphered. I do not recall the exact words. Yeah. And that is also a symbol of the mystery of the world. I'm going to translate and let you answer.
Yeah.
Para cerrar la plática, le agradecí a Bassem, que además nos tuvo la paciencia de conversar con nosotros 1 hora y media, y traje a colación la última escena de su película, que a mí me parece muy hermosa, que es una cortina con una hendidura a través de la cual se alcanza a ver una parte de la cara del hombre del ropero, y que a mí me parece un símbolo de nuestra imposibilidad de conocer el mundo por completo, de ese misterio del mundo que nos deja entrever algunas cosas de él, y que también se conecta con el epitafio de este hombre, que es muy hermoso para quien no haya visto película, y que dice algo así como: hay runas que no se pueden o que nadie puede descifrar, runas como estos caracteres antiguos nórdicos, ¿no? Es un símbolo el mismo que no se puede descifrar. Please go ahead.
I mean, you said it all, actually, Maria. I mean, this is kind of what I was trying to achieve. I had doubts in regards to the ending of the movie, the actual ending, where Shelly asks me, and what happened next? And then I say, I can't remember, I just woke up. And then it just ends. So I thought to myself, okay, this might seem like a very easy way out. But at the same time, I really wanted to emphasize the incompleteness of the story, the incompleteness of life. I've actually, for a very long time, I've always dreamt of making movies that end very abruptly, because our life ends abruptly. It's just like we could be talking right now, and then I could die while talking to you. I'm very, very dark. I'm sorry.
I'm used to it, don't worry.
But so I think, why do movies have to be complete? So I think it kind of complements also this very poetic and symbolic phrase that's on his gravestone, that some runes cannot be deciphered. There's something very poetic about his story, about his life, about what he writes, and what about what's written on his gravestone. And as you said, the slit in the wardrobe, it's kind of emphasizing that this is only a very narrow view on the life of this person, from one angle, in a way. So that's kind of my why I thought about it, and you got it exactly how I meant it, in a way.
That it was well done.
Thank you.
Bueno, voy a traducir rápidamente. Dice Bassem que sí, que está de acuerdo en lo que dije, que digamos, no estaba seguro sobre el desenlace, pero esa era su intención, o sea, mostrar ese carácter incompleto de nuestra comprensión de la vida. Y dice que siempre ha pensado que una película no tiene por qué terminar limpiecita, sino debería de terminar como la vida un poco también. Y esa era la intención detrás de eso. So, Bassem, thank you very much. It was a true pleasure to be able to talk to you about your work. And I hope when your next movie is done, we can do this again, but presentially, hopefully.
We have a date.
Yes.
No,
So
this
good
was
to see you.
It was a true pleasure for me, Maria, and such a rich conversation. Thank you so much for making this happen. And the film did not really get accepted into any festivals, and it did not win any prizes. But I believe that the real prize was to actually reconnect with you after all these years and actually have this very meaningful conversation with an audience in a really faraway land. It's daytime where you are, and it's nighttime. So there's something very poetic about that as well. I'm sitting here in the evening and you're in the morning, and we're having a conversation about this duality in the movie. I'm very happy with this, Maria. Thank you so much for making it.
Thank you, Bassem.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to translate what you just said.
Okay.
Entonces, dice que el mayor premio que ha tenido esta película es poder tener esta conversación con nosotros ahora en diferentes países a través del, digamos, a pesar de la distancia. So, okay. Thank you, Bassem.
Bye.